There was probably a time when you trusted yourself. You knew exactly what to say, when to say it, you knew what you wanted, you knew what decisions to make. Yet, over the course of time, maybe that voice started to feel lower and lower. Maybe you even started to second guess yourself along the way. And now you realize that you no longer trust yourself. So in this video, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how to start trusting ourselves again. If you're new here, hello, my name is Dr. Maria Martinez. This is the Inner Authority Project. And here we talk about transformation, identity, and inner authority for women over 50. Let's face it, over the course of our lives, things change, right? We tend to adopt certain roles and responsibilities that kind of change our perspective in life. And whereas we used to be able to say yes because we only thought about ourselves or we only had to think about ourselves, things change, right? Dynamics change. And over the course of time, we adopt patterns and start to making decisions that may or may no longer reflect what we truly want. So in this video, I really want to talk for a little while about what happens, why do we stop trusting ourselves, and even better, what are the things that we need to do to start rebuilding that trust. Now, let's face it, none of these experiences are wrong, but I like to talk about them because, like you, many of us women in middle age are starting to realize, wait a minute, somewhere along the way, I may have lost myself. And you're still there. I know I'm here, but along the lines of, the day to day, the autopilot of life, or the series of things, decisions, and responsibilities and patterns that we adopt, along those lines, we may have lost that sense of trust that we once had. So on this video, I want to talk about what are some of the reasons as to why we stop trusting ourselves. And I want to do that intentionally so that then we can turn things around and rebuild that sense of trust on ourselves. So let's talk about some of the reasons as to why we start to lose that trust in ourselves. Maybe your reasons are different, and if so, I'd love to hear from you. But I'm going to share some of the reasons that I know for myself, I started to lose that sense of trust, but also some of the reasons that I hear from the women that I have worked with along my coaching lines, right? So, first of all, let's face it, we were somewhat conditioned, right, by society, by others, maybe by the people that raised us to look outside ourselves first, right? So from a young age, especially women, girls, we are taught to be obedient. We are taught to act like little ladies. And what does that look like, right? We are taught to follow the rules. We are taught to find ways to make other people like us. I don't know about you, but that was really big for me and for a lot of people that I know. So I'm just putting that out there because I want this space to be a safe space for all of us. So, what happens is because we are constantly looking for validation, for people to like us, to follow the rules, to be ladies, little by little, what happens is that our own confidence in ourselves, in being authentic, to say what we want when we want it, starts to get diminished. So we are somewhat conditioned to not trust ourselves. It's kind of a rough way to put it, but this is my own conclusion that those conditioning around us, right, of us growing up and the weights, the expectations that were placed upon us as we were growing up, condition us to do that when we're adults too. So that's the first reason. The second reason is that you probably have overwritten your own instincts repeatedly. So maybe you had an instinct that this was not the right thing to do, but you wanted to please somebody, or you felt that it was the right thing to do. You said yes over and over and over repeatedly, even though that went against what you knew deep inside that was the right thing to do. So, what happens? Over time, your body says, well, my voice must not matter anymore. And we go into what I call autopilot. And we talked about this quite a bit on the previous video. So if you have not seen it, please go check it out. But the reality is, again, that the things that we do repeatedly become the norm, become our habit, the way that we operate. So after overriding your own instinct for a long time, extended period of time, what happens? That becomes the norm. Your body goes into, okay, this is what I have to do and do it. All right. So those are the first two reasons, but there's one more that I can think of, and that is that you have tied your worth into your outcomes. And I can relate. I know that I have done that in the past. What does that mean? That means that we basically start to ascertain that if I did it, even though I didn't want to do it to begin with, but if I did that and it worked out okay, well, I guess I wasn't wrong to begin with, right? That happened over and over and over again. And before you know, you are considering that your worth is equivalent to the outcomes that you achieved. So that is really dangerous because when we start to negotiate with our own worth, that's when we lose sight of asking for what we want, when we lose sight of the things that we are truly deserving of. So I wanted to put this out there, even though it was one of the hardest things that I wanted to talk about within this video. I thought this is a safe space and I should talk about it. So real trust doesn't come from being loud or even from not having fear. I'm going to go ahead and say that, right? It's okay to be a little afraid, right? One of my favorite books, Feel the Fear and Do it anyways, from Dr. Susan Jeffers. So it doesn't trusting ourselves, believing ourselves doesn't come from not being afraid of doing it. It comes from honoring our choices. I'm going to say that again. Trusting ourselves doesn't come from being the loudest or from being fearless. It comes from honoring our choices. So let that sit there for a moment because those may be hard truths for some of us to have to accept. Or maybe you've already been doing some of this work and you can agree. And if so, please let me know in the comments because I love to know who my audience is and I want to know what part of the message resonates with you. But after we come to that point where we can understand why and how we have lost that sense of trust in ourselves, it's time to rebuild it. Period. Right? Period. So, how do we do that? 3 steps for you. First step, you start noticing your inner voice. That's number one, right? You know your inner voice is there. You know that it's never left you, right? And you're not going to let that loud voice or the voice of fear dictate what you do next. What we're going to do is to pause, and my pause to power guide talks us through this, right? That you can find a link on the comments. But here we're going to pause and truly understand that our inner authority, that sense of trust, comes again with a sense of validation, a sense of being clear, of being grounded and being calm. That's when you know you feel good about that decision. So, first step, start noticing your inner voice. It's there, right? It's there. It might be slow, it might be low, it might be quiet, but it's there. So, step one, be intentional about listening to yourself. Step number two, and this is perhaps the one that I want to scream out through the mountain roofs, right? Because this is the one that I have made a point, or perhaps because the stage that I'm in life that resonates with me the most. And this is keep the promises that you make to yourself. If you're taking note, please write this one big one and in bold, underline it, right? Keep the promises that you make to yourself. And I'm not talking about huge promises. I'm talking about consistent, even little promises. If you say you're going to go for a walk after work, go for a walk. If you say, I'm not going to say yes right away when they ask me, pause and wait before you say yes, if that's what you want to do. Because again, it is the micro moments that rebuild again that sense of trust in yourself. Again, one decision at a time. And the third step here is stop outsourcing your decisions. Stop outsourcing your decisions. Now, what does that mean? That doesn't mean you're not going to go ask somebody for input if you need it. You might ask somebody that you trust for their perspective. But what we're going to do here is to remind ourselves that we don't need permission from somebody else to give ourselves permission to do what's right for us. So I often in my affirmations and in my journal, I write, I trust myself. I know what's right for me. I'm making the right decisions. And moreover, I remind this to myself all the time. I am capable of handling whatever comes my way, right? Think about it. After a while, we have done a great job so far. We have conquered every challenge that we have faced to date. Maybe financial, maybe health, maybe relationship, maybe careers. All of the challenges that we have experienced so far have shaped us to who we are today. So we have overcome those challenges. That's proof that we can handle whatever comes our way, right? So again, 3 steps. Start to notice the inner voice. Keep the promises that you make to yourself and stop outsourcing your decisions. Because trust, self trust, is knowing that you have your own back no matter what happens. That no matter what happens, you will not abandon yourself. Think of yourself as that little girl growing up who was told, you got to be act like a little lady. You have to be quiet when somebody else talks. You have to follow the rules, right? You have to think about that little girl and remind yourself that no matter what, you have your own back. And for solidarity, we have a community here. We're building a community at the Inner Authority Project. So if any of these resonated with you, please like and comment on this post. It would mean the world to me. And if you're ready to take one step, go ahead and download my 30-day reset, which is linked below. And I look forward to hearing from you and seeing you on the next video. Until next time.